and welcome back to the Constitutionals, the Entertainment Business News Podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back in. Here we are. We're in the middle of this here episode. If you were watching the video, you saw my mouth go agape, and it's because I checked C Plus Comedy's email, and this is nothing important happened. I did not get an interview offer that would change the state of this website. No, the most recent email I get is ridiculousness canceled at MTV after 46 seasons. And I looked at it and I went, 46 seasons? And yes, obviously, seasons are counted differently for a lot of different things. When you're doing a show like The Simpsons or SNL, those have 37 and 51 seasons respectively. But those run from fall to summer, 2025, 2026. And then for late night, those are the same thing, but they're you don't really go, hey, back in season 2 of Late Night with Seth Meyers. So I reacted because I didn't know that it was still, I knew that was still going on because they play it at my gym, but I didn't know that it was counted. The seasons are counted that way. So they're probably shot in like 10 episode increments, but they run them continuously. So they get like Rob Dyrdek out there doing, looking at videos. I don't know how this works. It'll continue into 2026. I'm not including this in the notes either. But no new episodes with previously shot first run episodes, but no new episodes we produce. Wow. And select seasons stream on Paramount Plus. MTV wants more curated slate of content that embraces this experimental DNA, represents different creative voices and refresh programming. 1,700 episodes. Oh my goodness. Nearly 1,700 episodes. It's the longest running show in MTV history. Wow. The series once took up 113 hours out of the network's week-long 168-hour lineup. Very true. Anyway, what's been going on? Not much. Not much has been going on. The Outer Worlds 2 came out. I downloaded it yesterday. Do I plan to start it? No. I just finished the DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is the highlight of my week, man. I caught... What was the last Pokemon? Oh, Reggie Drago. I caught that one. I chose the dragon because he looked the coolest. Then what else has been going on? Nothing. I've got nothing else going on. Something I was gonna mention something at the top of the show. I was thrown by this the cancellation of ridiculousness. All right, let's get into the stories I have here. This comes from Brian Stetler over at I know him. Over at CNN. This comes from CNN itself. CNN charts new course with all access streaming subscriptions. This week, CNN reintroduced itself as a streaming. I don't want to say it, but a streaming platform. Let's go back. A couple of years ago, CNN introduced CNN Plus, and that was supposed to be its video platform, its video effort for people who want to watch CNN as it streams, as well as CNN Plus exclusives. There's going to be a show with Scott Galloway. I think Kara Swisher's going to have one, and Rahel Solomon, Jim Sciutto. Everybody's going to get a show. And then you can also watch Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown and other shows along those lines. Anderson Cooper's The Whole Story. That was blown up after about 2 weeks. And then basically CNN was mixed in with HBO Max. Now, a couple of years later, a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, it feels like at this point, CNN was said to be. Okay, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. CNN introduced CNN All Access, I guess that's what it's called at that point, but they were, or a CNN subscription, CNN subscription, where you could go to CNN.com and subscribe for like $4 a month and read all of the CNN stuff. So that was just the subscription for the news on the website, separate from the TV show, the cable. Then CNN was said to be set to be removed from HBO Max because you could watch CNN streaming, CNN International, as well as a bunch of CNN shows. Now you can't get anything CNN on HBO Max, with the exception of like, have I got news for you? Let me check. I don't know, and I don't know if there's any of the the Anthony Bourdain stuff. Yeah, there's not even a news tab. What else is it? The Whole Story? Let me see if that's on there, because that's the only show I can think of at this point. The Whole Story. You can see Anderson Cooper's The Whole Story. So I'm guessing you see like the premiere shows. Let me type in Anthony Bourdain. Now the reason I keep saying Anthony Bourdain is because there's the documentary, there's Parts Unknown, and there's No Reservations. The reason I keep mentioning Anthony, there's only 2 seasons of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. It's fucking ridiculous. I love Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I'm not kidding. I love that show. The reason I keep mentioning Anthony Bourdain is because as a part of this new streaming option, which is CNN All Access, for $7 a month, you get access to CNN streaming, as well as the CNN news on the website. So if that's what you like, then that's where you get it. But there's also there are, with Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, came like a web series that aired sometimes in like interstitials on television. And so you would get, it would air once, and that was the only time you could ever see it. So now that series is going to be on CNN All Access. There's a new Anderson Cooper show, All There Is Live. It's a weekly companion broadcast to his popular All There Is podcast. Okay. I don't know why does these exist? And to their credit, to the credit of Mark Thompson, they mentioned, Brian writes in here that it's attempting a New York Times-like pivot. This is exactly what Mark Thompson did at the New York Times, is he helped pivot their subscription platform. And while they still don't have a substantial video output, whereas CNN does, this is a good start for them. So as I said, the All Access is $7 a month. I don't believe you can get did I switch into a Southern accent? I don't believe you can get just the reading thing. Let's see, subscribe if I click on that. Yeah, you can't just get the reading portion. So it is now $7 per month, and you get access to all of CNN. Fox News has the same thing as Brian points out here. If successful, CNN's paid tiers will reorient the company's business over time, making it less reliant on cable subscriber revenue and making it more direct relationship and giving it more direct relationships with news viewers and readers. The Times has become the envy of news publishers by building a digital subscription bundle with games, recipes, and reviews alongside core reporting and commentary. Okay, well, see, that's the difference between the New York Times and CNN. CNN is reliant on the video aspect. And along with the video stuff, they also are lucky to have the online things. And then on top of that, they also have original programming. Whereas the New York Times has the only just the time to focus on what they're good at, which is reporting. The games came naturally. The recipes came naturally, and then the review stuff because I bought Wirecutter. There's a difference in between that, and I hope that Mark Thompson can understand that there's a CNN is a video first platform, and I'm sure they know that because not only do they do 18 hours of news a day, but if you go to the website, it's a lot of video ahead of you. So the main CNN stream starts with early start at 5 a.m. and then goes all the way through Laura Coates Live at 11 p.m. A handful of CNN US hours in between won't be streamed in concession to cable and satellite distributors, correct, but those hours will be replaced by shows from CNN International and CNN Headlines. That's the same thing that happened on HBO Max. There will also be pop-up channels and alt-casts for breaking news stories and special events. Yeah, okay. So CNN is trying to become what the New York Times is plus video. But again, don't compare yourself to the New York Times. You're not fighting for them because the people who read the New York Times are also going to go to CNN. Your competition, your main competition, is Fox News and MS Now when that becomes a thing in a couple of weeks. And as I scroll through the front page here, it's the same. I told this on LinkedIn Logs, and I don't know if I mentioned this here, but when I was at CNN, working a job that I was well overqualified for, but as I see it in, my supervisor, my manager, I guess, she would try to have, bi-weekly meetings, like every other week or so, and with me. And in those meetings, she would ask, hey, if you have any ideas, blah, 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 tell me. And every single meeting, I would come through with 5 ideas. I know very specifically when I was there, when the fires in Hawaii happened, CNN was only covering the white people who were there on vacation or like who owned restaurants and lived off the island. They were not covering the brown people, the Hawaiians who lived there their entire lives. And I in that first week or so, I noticed that because I was in the daytime portion of the company and of the schedule, and I mentioned it, and she very quickly it doesn't, we don't blah 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 blah, and we're covering the blah blah, and I was like, honey, sweetheart, that is something that is happening, like, to those people anyway. But very specifically, another thing I mentioned was I read the New York Times, I go to Axios, I do this, I do that. The CNN website is too cluttered, and I don't know what stories matter to me most. And I don't know, as I scroll through now, it's just there's so much. And yes, there's a main story and then there's stuff on the side, but there's a problem of what do I need to know at this point? And it's less so a problem now, but it's still an issue. Anyway, I wish them the best. This next one comes from Variety, written by Brian Steinberg. CBS News to overhaul Saturday morning show after Paramount layoffs. We knew this was happening after Paramount was purchased by Skydance. We knew that this was going to lead to people losing their jobs. It's what happens in these mergers. You should not want this stuff to happen. I'm going to talk about another potential merger in the next story, and it's only going to get worse. You do not want these things to happen. This is not good for the consumer. And if you're excited about this, what this is going to be, what this is going to mean for Paramount, this is what it looks like. You're going to see a leaner company that's not able to do the things correctly. And when it comes to news, when it comes to broadcasting news, you're going to see CBS News truly go down the toilet. So we had about 2,000 people, I believe. Let me triple check that. But there were a couple thousand people lost their jobs at Paramount this week alone, and CBS News' Saturday morning show, CBS Saturday Morning, I believe that's what it's called, is going to be basically done. Layoffs affected that show, as well as parent corporation Paramount Global, as well as the corp itself. So business and creative jobs. Layoffs will also affect CBS News operations in South Africa. So Johannesburg portion is closing, and the oversight of that region will head to London. CBS News will scale back its unit devoted to covering race and culture. So there you go. 2 companion programs for streaming are gone, including one from CBS Evening News, as well as CBS Mornings, which had, I believe its third hour was CBS Mornings Plus. And that was hosted by CBS Mornings host Tony DeCopel and Adriana Diaz. Approximately 100 jobs across the news division were affected by the move, part of a larger round of cost-cutting at the struggling media conglomerate. The most obvious changes will come at Saturday Morning, which was a show that, as of this fall, was on the rise in terms of viewers. Dana Jacobson, Michelle Miller, and executive producer Brian Applegate are expected to leave after all these cuts just happened. So they weren't even fired, but the people around them were fired. And then they're like, and then now Paramount's guidance is like, well, you don't have a show anymore. Jeff Glor, if you'll recall, who was the former evening news anchor, left the show a couple of months ago. Left in the fall of 2024. Oh my God, that feels like it truly felt like, because Trump's been president for a year. Jesus Christ. It really felt like he left a couple of months ago. So now CBS Saturday Mornings will be essentially run by the weekday producers. Will it even be a live show anymore? As I said before, the small program held its own, keeping its ratings even as rivals at NBC and ABC shed viewers. For the first 5 weeks of the current season, so this past couple of months, Saturday Morning was enjoying one of its best starts in 2 decades, according to data from Nielsen. Oh, Nikki Baptiste is leaving. Nancy Chen, Janet Shamillan, Arturo Rhymes, Ellie Preston, and Lisa Ling, who was hired in 2023. I didn't see that she was leaving. Damn, that sucks. John Dickerson has been ousted from CBS Evening News. Oh my God, he's going to leave at the end of this year. And the news that popped up, I think last night or early this morning, was they're hoping that Gayle King, whose contract is up in May 2026, will also opt to leave and maybe shift to a separate role, much in the same way that I was going to say Heidi Klum, Hoda Kotb did for the Today Show, much like Judy Woodruff did for PBS NewsHour. Where this is just the beginning. This is the changing tide for broadcast news. We're going to see, and it's not just happening at CBS. NBC, I can only imagine what's going to happen with their news unit, and ABC's news unit has just, I don't know, because I don't watch ABC News, or read it really much anyway. But it's fascinating to watch these companies kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because they're not going to be able to have the news coverage that truly matters, the stuff that people are going to come read over at CBS News. I have an RSS feed reader, so in every section that I've managed to cobble together, I have news, sports, gaming, entertainment, technology, and mobile, which is separate from technology because there's mobile websites that, like Android and Apple websites, that stink, but I want to, they often get some news that I need to see. But when I go to the news tab and I see, New York Times with BBC News and Axios and The Atlantic, sometimes it mixes, obviously not sometimes, but it'll mix in stories from ABC News and CBS and NBC, and it's just the stuff that they're reporting everything from the important news stuff, but also like the shitty stuff that you'll see that doesn't matter. And it's going to get, and that's now. So that's only going to get worse where, we have people like Barry Weiss, who has never been in charge of anything. Now she's in charge of CBS News because Paramount Skydance purchased the Free Press that Barry Weiss started. Go listen to the episode I did a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a much more conservative based platform, CBS News, much in the same way that the Free Press is. And it's going to be poorly run. And I dare say it's whatever's left of CBS News at this point, which is CBS Mornings and Sunday Morning and 60 Minutes. The producers there must hold the company accountable. All right, let's move on. This comes from Dawn Kopecki, Don Chilomitsky, and Amy Jo Crowley over at Reuters. Exclusive: Netflix taps bank to explore bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. We know that Warner Bros. Has officially put itself up for sale. Officially, unofficially, but officially put itself up for sale. And this is, again, there's two options. Either companies that are interested wait until the company splits, which is next year, which is spring next year, which will see the studios and the streaming, studios and HBO Max become one big profitable company, and everything else become nothing. So CNN, the cable networks, all that shit just become nothing. Or become its own company, but also just go right down the tubes. Companies that have been interested in, or in the second option is you just buy Warner Brothers Discovery outright right now. Either way, David Zaslav wins. Now, the companies that have been interested and reportedly interested, and I believe outwardly interested, two of them include Comcast Universal, NBC Universal, as well as Paramount Skydance, which is something you do not want. Other companies that are interested apparently include Apple and Amazon. But also, there's been hints that Netflix has been interested. Ted Sarandos came out last week and said, hey, we're not interested in buying legacy media. But what that really means is they're not interested in buying cable networks. But they could be interested in purchasing the streaming platform of HBO Max because it has a lot of great stuff on it. And then they could also be interested in having the studios because there's a lot of great IP behind those studios. Now, according to this Reuters report, Netflix has hired Moelis and Company for Warner Bros. Discovery bid evaluation, which means that this bank will basically look at all the data that there is available about Warner Bros. Discovery and say, it's worth this much, you should offer this much. Sarandos, as I mentioned before, Sarandos confirms there's no interest in legacy media networks like CNN, and Comcast evaluates media assets, dismisses regulatory approval concerns, which means like, hey, we're going to do this whether you like it or not. Now, as I mentioned last week, Paramount Skydance, I'm just calling it Paramount Skydance. I don't know the official name, and we'll probably never know we won't know until this merger goes through. But Paramount Skydance is just a lot more easier to say than Skydance Media and Paramount Global. Paramount Skydance, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, put in a third bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, Netflix has also been granted access to the data room, which contains the financial details needed to make a bid, according to two of the sources familiar with the matter. Owning Warner Bros. Studios business would give Netflix control over some of Hollywood's most successful storied series and stories and characters, like HBO. Like HBO, yeah, it's true, like Sopranos. Oh, don't you want to see Sopranos babies?
Hey, where's my gabagool? Come over here, Toots.
I don't want to do any more Sopranos babies. Harry Potter, DC Comics, Running Point. Hold on. Sorry, excuse me. No, never mind. I was naming things that belong to Netflix. Sarandos told investors last week that while the company is traditionally, quote, more builders than buyers, it does evaluate acquisitions based on criteria such as the size of the opportunity and whether it would strengthen the company's entertainment offerings. This is a fascinating thing because on one hand, you know, this would save a lot of Warner Brothers from just being run by people like David Ellison over at Paramount Skydance, or being exploited like they probably would be with Comcast Universal. But that's not to say that Netflix wouldn't, again, as I made the joke earlier, do a Sopranos prequel series or have more It spinoffs. Which, you know, and I'll say this: the It Welcome to Derry aired this week, and while the CG in that pilot looked just so crazy, I do like the story so far, where it's going, and I'm interested in seeing where the rest of the season takes us. Much in the same way that Alien Earth was interesting to me. That's not to say it was the best show or the best thing that happened to aliens in the past couple of years. But I did like the last Aliens movie. What was the spinoff, the prequel spinoff? I also liked Prometheus. I like most of the Aliens movies. I don't like Alien 3 that much. I watched it recently within the last couple of years, or rewatched it, and I watched the extended version, the director's cut. I think that's not my least favorite one. I did rewatch Aliens vs. Predator and Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, and man, so much promise just dropped by the wayside. If Netflix, and so anyway, the most interesting part of this is, you know, as much as I don't want this to happen, I would like Warner Brothers Discovery to at least be held by somebody who would do some justice to it. I'm not the biggest fan of Netflix, but I do like the company more than I like Paramount Skydance. Although I do spend a lot of time on Paramount Plus, mostly for Matlock and Ghosts and Star Trek. But then on LinkedIn, I'm seeing all these people I used to work with have discussions, in quotes, surrounding this acquisition. And, you know, Warner Brothers has been up for sale multiple times over the past couple of years. Yeah, the past couple of decades. And these people have been in and out of the companies, or have been lucky enough to stay with the company for as long as, you know, those past couple of decades. And a lot of people are excited, and a lot of people are blanket general concerned. You know, they dare not voice their dissent on LinkedIn. And then there's me, I'm talking shit about mental health. I'm like, mental health doesn't exist. Very true. I am writing down on LinkedIn. If these people, never mind. This next one comes from Tony Maglio over at The Hollywood Reporter. Is Peacock stuck at 41 million subscribers? Peacock is doing well for what Peacock is, but it's also plateaued. For the entirety of 2025, Peacock has been stuck at 41 million subscribers. Some people have gone up, sometimes it's gone down. But they cannot break that 42 million line. Peacock, for what it's worth, does have a lot to offer. I was on Peacock yesterday, and I saw that the WWE thing is, like, the tag is still there. And it's... WWE is leaving the platform, but just the idea that tag is still there just irks me. Take this stuff off. You're not doing anything with it. Now you're focused on basketball and football, and they're doing a lot with that football. I'll say that. And but the basketball, I think they're doing a lot of good advertising for the basketball too. I didn't say the football was good advertising. I think they're doing a lot of good advertising for the basketball because they kind of have to. But they have the Olympics and they also have Love Island. And that really, people love Love Island. And I'm not sure about the Olympics, but people love Love Island. So they're willing to pay for Peacock. But are they going to stay with Peacock? They had a price hike, and then WWE was essentially said to be lost. NBA is back, and now you can get Peacock with Apple TV and some other streamers as well, and then also on Amazon channels. Ooh, I had to remember. I was like, oh, I don't know which one it is. But bundles mean split subscriber revenue, and Peacock execs didn't necessarily want that. A person with knowledge of the Walmart deal, because they did team up with Walmart Plus in order to offer Peacock to that, told The Hollywood Reporter that NBCU was approached 2 or 3 years ago to do a Peacock with Walmart Plus bundle, but the financials did not work for the young streamer. Peacock has now changed its mind, and it's definitely helping. These extra bundles are helping with subscriber counts. Although the debts and credits still aren't adding up, Peacock has yet to turn a profit, and executives have yet to publicly set a timeline to break even. Though Peacock continues to lose hundreds of millions of dollars per quarter, this summer it's narrowed its losses to $217 million. That's good for Peacock. Another thing is, this week they signed Taylor Sheridan over from Paramount. Now his deal ends in 2028. So in 2029, Sheridan's going to be not a free agent, going to be an agent of NBC Universal. Until then, excuse me, his yes. All right, so that's for TV, but for film, his film deal will move over to NBC Universal. So in 2026, he can start making movies for NBC Universal, and for in 2029, he can do the same thing for TV. Is that the thing that is needed the most? Was getting an auteur, and I'll call him an auteur because he's changed the way cowboy TV works. Non-existent cowboy TV has worked, except for Justified. Neo Western shows. Is getting Taylor Sheridan the best thing that could happen for them right now? My theory is that they since Peacock has Yellowstone, and they will have it until it reverts back to Paramount Plus, much in the same way South Park did from HBO Max. They see the numbers that Yellowstone does and has done on Peacock, and they wanted to get somebody, and they see the way that Ryan Murphy and Shonda Rhimes and other big name producers, they see what they've done on ABC, or excuse me, on Disney platforms and Netflix platforms. Netflix. And they know they don't have that. You could say Dick Wolf because they have all of the Law and Order, 3 Law and Order shows, 4 Criminal Intent. I forgot about that. 4 Law and Order shows are on Peacock. The Chicago shows are on Peacock, and most of the FBI shows are on Peacock. But now they finally have somebody who is a name now and can bring in, hopefully, viewers with his raunchy cowboy shows. We'll see. All right, this is my last bit. This comes from Max Goldbart and Jake Cantor over at Deadline. Why Disney ditched Doctor Who. Sources say ratings, big ticket budget, and MAGA politics were factors in BBC deal failing to regenerate. When Doctor Who's last season ended, I would say people were, just happy to have Doctor Who back and hesitant to really voice opinions on Ncuti Gatwa and these last couple of seasons of Doctor Who. I thought it was fine. I like Doctor Who. More Doctor Who is good. Disney went mum. Dana Walden and the company went mum on what new Doctor Who would look like. There's a spinoff coming, but that's pretty much it. And that's like 1 season that we know of so far. And then months would go by and people would just ask every Doctor Who writer or showrunner, hey, is there going to be more Doctor Who? And then they're like, we hope so. But now we have our answer. There's no more Doctor Who coming. So the deal with the BBC is off. Deadline has spoken with multiple sources in Doctor Who's orbit who say the Disney deal fell apart for a variety of reasons, including concerns over Ncuti Gatwa show's failure to break out from its established fan base and its big ticket budget. We know Doctor Who, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you know that as these seasons have gotten into modern years, the effects have gotten better. It's gotten a lot more expensive. Others suspect that fears of a, quote, woke backlash may be a factor, as Doctor Who has embraced diverse storytelling under showrunner Russell T Davies, who, mind you, came back. I think Russell does a great job, and I love these stories that he's telling. People are mad that, was it Jinx Monsoon showed up as a villain, and there's a transgender character. It's a fucking story about space and time. Those aren't even like fantastical things. That exists at your office. That exists at my gym, which is like my office. Come and meet me at the barbell rack. That's not even what it's called. Oh my God. So this deal was announced in October 2022. Disney said they were going to produce just a bunch of Doctor Who things, including, I believe they did 3 or 4 specials. There's also a Christmas special coming up. So that might be 4. And then 2 seasons, as well as this upcoming spinoff show that I can't seem to remember what it is. On the BBC, Doctor Who has seen an alarming drop-off in viewing figures. Season 15 averaged 3.8 million viewers, according to Gold Standard 28-day viewing figures from Barb, the UK's official ratings agency. It's a decline of 1 million on the prior season, the first starring Gatwa and produced by Jane Tranter's Bad Wolf. Both Gatwa seasons were down on Jodie Whittaker's concluding season in 2021, which was watched by 5.2 million people, a period that was not considered to be vintage Doctor Who. So the ratings weren't very good. And the spinoff is called the war between the land and sea. So they were supposed to wait until after that. Gatwa's experience felt somewhat fraught. He left the show after 2 seasons and later blamed burnout. With a 33, we're the same age, saying that he was, quote, getting old and my body was tired. A Doctor Who source says the show suffered because Gatwa never fully embraced the role. There's more to that role than just performing. You've got to be an ambassador for the brand and embrace being the generation's Doctor. Matt Smith and Dave Tennant fully understood the responsibility it carried. You know, I'm hesitant to agree with. I hesitate to agree with this, but I also feel like Ncuti has, and this is not to take away from Matt Smith and Dave Tennant, because I would say Matt Smith was probably like the first, not modern day, but like the first online Doctor Who, I guess. I don't know. But Ncuti, you know, to be a young black man, queer black man, he should have on one hand, yes, been like, I'm Doctor Who and like, look at me, like I'm this big star. But on the other hand, he was also a big star when he joined in. And that's not to say that Jodie Whittaker and Dave Tennant and Matt Smith and Eccleston and the other one whose face I can see in my head right now, the one before Whittaker. That's not to say that they weren't big stars prior to this, but Ncuti is like the first big modern day star to take on this role. He's young, but he's also hot because his career, he was in the Barbie movie. He's led other projects. He was a co-star in what is that Olivia Colman Benedict Cumberbatch movie that came out that I won't see? He was in that movie, The Roses. He was in that movie. He wasn't even in the trailers. It's ridiculous. The only reason I knew he was in that movie was because I saw the trailer and I went, oh, Andy Samberg's in this. Are there people of color in it? And I went to IMDb and I was like, oh, well, Ncuti's in this. How come he wasn't in the trailer? And then I saw Ncuti on a damn poster, and I was like, how come he's not in the trailer? It's ridiculous. Another well-placed industry source says Doctor Who became too woke for Trump's USA, and this was a factor in Disney minds when it came to renewal. They talk about the transgender actress Yasmin Finney, drag queen Jinx Monsoon. Excuse me. Every time I see Jinx Monsoon, I read Moon. Change your name. And then there's a kiss between Gatwa and Jonathan Groff. I completely forgot about that. Yes, those. See, this is the thing. These companies, they want to say that they represent the viewers, but then they don't stand behind these stories and these characters when this happens. This is not the first time this has happened with Disney. They reference back to Jimmy Kimmel's suspension because of a very small thing he said about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But you know, I'm even thinking back to Star Wars, where they didn't the new trilogy, when they didn't throw any support behind Daisy Ridley and what's his name? Oh, Jesus Christ. Star Wars episode. John Boyega. There we go. John Boyega. When all of the racist fans came out, and racist and sexist fans came out and said nasty things about both of those actors. This is partially Disney's fault. When you have a big franchise like Doctor Who, then do the same exact shit you did with the Fantastic Four or whatever other Marvel movies there are. Throw some advertising behind it. Go to conventions, talk about, hey, we've got Doctor Who coming on Disney Plus. This is the place to watch it. Hey, by the way, we also have The Orville. And then if you like Doctor Who, go watch Star Wars, you know? If I'm Disney, I would have put my Disney magic behind it. I would have done everything I could, because this is a 60-year-old franchise, 60 or 70-year-old franchise, or 50. It might be 50. What year is it? 2025? It might be 60. I'm glad that they were able, that Doctor Who was able to get at least its reset with Billy Piper showing back up as the newly regenerated Doctor. But Shooty, I put a lot. I'll spread the blame on a lot of things: Disney, Shooty, and then also just the horrible, shitty world we live in. Shooty for not being able to, or not wanting to really get behind Doctor Who. Disney for not really supporting Doctor Who. And the fans, in quotes, for not stepping up. Truly, it is the big fan thing too, because if the fans really wanted to support it, they would have, instead of going online. And I'm sure it's not all of them, but instead of going online and being like, this new Negro Doctor Who, this homo Doctor Who, how dare. All right, listen, if you like what you heard here, and I don't know why you wouldn't, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me and everything I've ever done, mostly everything I've ever done for the website. If you want to watch a video version of this show, go to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see a video version of the other podcasts, including Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, and LinkedIn Logs, the Jobs podcast, as well as the interviews, which is where I sit down with famous people and I talk to them about their projects. We have a couple coming out over the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram at cpluscomedy. Me on those platforms at Chad Black White. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.